Christine.
And we are
Two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch. That's us.
That is us. Welcome back. We skipped a week, but we are back because last week had a lot going on, including us being finalists for the BBVA pitch contest, where we could possibly win $10,000.
$10,000.
If you haven't seen anything, I don't know how you missed it because we've been trying to flood everyone.
We have been spamming everybody. Houston Dynamo is having this contest. It's the third year they're doing it?
The third year, yes. And so we are one of the 4 finalists, and we need everybody to vote for us. So that is, if you go anywhere on Melanin Mental page, in the groups, my page, on Elisa's page, it's
this page, yes. So they're having this contest, and how this will help everyone is, you know, we have a video saying what we would do with the money if we win it, but really it's going to allow for us to bring more mental health awareness to our communities, which is what, you know, we're committed to doing. We are going to have more community events and scholarship programs. So, you know, we talk a lot about getting more access to our communities to therapy. So this would just be such an awesome jumping point for us to really take melanin and mental health to the next level, to be able to help our communities in a different way, in a more, what is the word I'm looking for? Just in a more, we're going to be able to do more.
Right.
Do more stuff.
It gives us a lot more options of how we can help.
Yes.
If we have those funds to be able to implement some of the programs that we have going on, including scholarship funds, including the corporate trainings of cultural competency.
Yes, we want to be able to, you know, there's you see it every day. I mean, I don't think there's a week where someone is not dropping the ball with cultural competency.
Some brand, some company,
somewhere. Yeah. And so we want to be able to help corporations, not just from, you know, training them on, you know, competency level, but giving them the insight that we have as mental health professionals on how to address issues around race where they're doing it in a competent way, but that they feel confident in how they're addressing it. So that's something we would do with it. Like I said, setting up some scholarship funds for people to be able to get some reduced fee or free therapy.
To be able to, so we can help people that don't have access, because we're doing a good job. Well, I'll pat ourselves on the back. We're working really hard to reduce that stigma, but we still don't want to have other barriers that are stopping people from going to therapy, like money or access or whatever. So we want to make sure that we try to help with that, as well as helping people get trained to become therapists, trying to encourage people to become mental health professionals, whether that's through mentoring, teaching more about business skills that we don't learn in school, that type of stuff.
You know, our field, one of the big criticisms that we hear a lot and would hear in grad school, it's like, oh, you can't be, you know, if you're going to be a therapist, you're going to be poor. Right. There's no money in
you got to get a master's degree, pay all the extra money, but just know you're going to be poor.
Yeah. And we want, and I think a big part of that, I mean, there's no research to back this. This is just conversations we've had. But I think a big part of that is because in grad school, we don't get a lot of training around the business aspect. And I think even within the field, you'll hear other clinicians talk about it, like there's this like aversion to even talking about it as a business, you know, but the reality is we want to be able to help our communities, and in order for that to do that, we can't be starving.
Right. We have to be able to pay our bills and things like that. So teaching those business skills,
the business skills.
And to make it in a way, because sometimes we have that conflict, to make it in a way where you are able to make money and provide it and make the type of money that you want to make, but also feel like you are helping the community.
Because you can do both. We're of that mindset that you can do both.
Yes.
And that's what we want to be able to do. And even if you don't plan on going into entrepreneurship, like how to make you more of an asset, you know, like to working somewhere else. Because not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But we want to have more people in our field in different areas, right? Because maybe you're not a therapist, but you're somewhere in the field, you know? Plus, we want to be able to have more community events.
Yes.
having the community come out and
be more involved.
Yeah.
And understand who therapists are, what mental health is all about, how it can help you even if you don't have a diagnosis or something like
right.
that. And even if you do, resources and things like that. So those are the four main areas we're working on, and we're excited. So please, I just put the link in the live.
Yes.
And if you're listening to the podcast, it's too late. If you're listening, it's too late.
But you voted.
Right. Go check back. See if we won, and we'll make sure we post everywhere.
Yes, because right now you can still vote every day. Even if you already voted, you can vote again.
Every day on every device.
Every device.
I vote on 5 devices a day.
Mm-hmm. And it's so cute because it's so cute because we have so many people who are so wonderful and they're so supportive of us and they want us to win. We all want to win because if we win, y'all win.
Right? Exactly.
But they're so cute because they're like, hey, are you on this site? Because some of your competitors, they're on there soliciting votes and stuff. So they're like, oh, we're voting for you. You know, even had somebody reached out because we didn't even know her. And
she was supposed to be voting for somebody else.
Yeah, somebody was soliciting, and she's like, "But I saw you and what y'all are about, and I'm voting for y'all." It's like, so we love it. We love the love around it, the support, and hopefully we'll have some good news for y'all on Friday. Yeah.
Friday is when we find. We don't know if we get to announce it on Friday. It might be not until the following day.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's gonna be hard to hold in if we win. It's going to be hard. We got some secret messages on the social media to let y'all know.
Yeah. Link twice.
Right. Somebody won. We don't know who yet. Yeah. But thank you guys so much. So we'll get into the show today. We're not going to try to solicit. We probably going to mention it at the end just to make sure y'all vote. But
so we've got a lot of stuff coming up this week
it's
too.
So much happening.
Oh my goodness. So the other big thing is this Sunday, which is why we're talking about what we're going to talk about today.
Right.
If you follow us, you have to have seen this also. Sunday, we are having an online town hall discussion.
Yes.
And it's called Changing the Face of Therapy. And we have an epic panel of clinicians who are going to be talking about how we change the face of therapy. You know? Let me pull up everybody's names because I don't want to
miss anybody.
Woo, it's gonna be so good.
we tried to reach out to people that were already doing work in minority mental health, making sure that they're trying to make changes when it comes to our communities, and those are people that we reached out to be a part of this panel and have this discussion on where we're going when it comes to minority mental health.
Yes, and so if you look on all our social media, so we have Dr. Joy of Therapy for Black Girls. If you're in mental health, you know who Dr. Joy is.
Right. And if you're not, you probably heard of Therapy for Black Girls.
Yes, she's one of our panelists. We have Rashawn Miller of Youth Stress Inc., who's also doing amazing things, wrote a book, received the APA award this year for the work he's doing in minority mental health. We have Dr. Jess O'Reilly from Sex with Dr. Jess, who is an international speaker, she's so dope. Like, she's been so supportive. Again, she's an international speaker, a sexologist. She's going to be giving her input, which is going to be cool. She's Canadian.
Right.
So it's going to be really cool to get her impact, like this international insight.
Right.
We have Dr. Earl Turner from H-Town, who's a professor here, but has also done a lot of work on educating people on cultural competency. He's regularly featured here locally on the news.
He was on one of our earlier episodes.
Yes, that was a really popular
minority men in mental health. It was a really good episode.
We have Dr. Manuel, who is of the Institute of Chicano Psychology, who's out in Austin, and who is regularly doing speaking engagements and workshops on how to work with Latinx communities, how to work with minority communities. And then Dr. Nikki Coleman, who is a professor here at U of H, also teaches sexual health. I'm just overwhelmed.
I'm just a lot going on. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be really, really good. The conversation is already we have so many things we want to pack into it, and we're not going to be able to, so we know it's going to have to be a part 2, part 3, something like that. But it's going to be very good. And we want to know what you guys want to know as well. what do you think we need to do to change the face of therapy? What questions do you have for our panelists? So make sure to put that in on our social media. Send us an email at info@Melanin Mental Health if you have any questions that you would like to ask the panelists. But just make sure you check it out. It's Sunday. It's online. Sit on your couch, have a drink, clean up, whatever you need to do while you're watching. But check it out. It's going to be a really good discussion.
Yeah, you don't want to be left out of the
discussion.
discussion.
It's going to be
just,
so good.
Make sure you secure your spot. And we'll have that link on there also.
Yes. All right, so today's topic, like we said, it's kind of a precursor for... Oh, wait, one more thing. We're just going to skip the announcements at the end. Tomorrow is the last day to do the mental health code for the...
yes. If you want your... Which we're not wearing today.
No, but we have all those shirts we wear every single time.
The therapy is dope. So sexy, melanated therapist. We have... I don't know if y'all are aware. We also have caps and mugs. Pillows, totes, and we rarely have sales.
yeah. This is new for us.
I think this is one of our.
But it's been going good. It's been going good. So we got one more day. It ends on the 31st. It was for Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we did percentage off if you use the code Mental Health. So check it out. We might be having some other things next month for.
We got some fun stuff.
LGBT. So check it out. See, we're trying to keep things fresh and fun, and it's exciting. So,
lots of stuff that we plan for y'all.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go to the topic now. All right, so we're gonna start with like the basics of cultural competency and just why is it needed. And so, what is, I guess, your definition? I'll do like an official definition, but what is like your definition of cultural competency, or like how do you know if somebody's culturally competent?
How do you know if someone's culturally competent? I think for me, it's someone who continuously questions, am I culturally competent, right? Because I think all of us, not just white clinicians have to be culturally competent. Like, we all have to be aware of what our biases are, and we all have biases. That's just part of being human. But how comfortable are we with taking other people's culture into consideration as it pertains to whatever it is that they may be coming to therapy for? Right? And so, am I quick to pathologize something before I find out? Whether I ask the client, like how it might relate to their cultural beliefs or spiritual beliefs. Or do I do my own work to get some supervision, to read some of the research or literature about what it might be like for whatever my client is coming in with, and how it might relate to how they're able to work through maybe what it is they're coming to therapy for.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you made a really good point with the curiosity, and I would add to that understanding your own privilege, no matter what culture or what they have going on in their personal life or whatever culture they subscribe to. Is that the word?
No, they don't subscribe to the culture. Not to the culture.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm not saying like you choose it, but like whatever you fit into, I guess. Because even I'm thinking about like outside of just ethnicity and race, ableism or things like that. Like there are other ones that you may fit into. I'll say fit into. That as a person who's able-bodied, I might not understand the struggles of someone that's disabled.
Right.
Parents of kids that have special needs.
Right.
I may not get with the struggles they have. And so sometimes we bring our own experiences into that.
Right.
And so being culturally competent is being aware of there are certain things that I just don't have experiences with, and then I'm choosing to learn more.
Am I checking my privilege?
Right.
Am I checking my privilege, and how maybe my client doesn't have those same privileges, and how that's contributing to where they're at in life right now.
Right. Because you can't solve every problem the way, or not even solve, because that's not our job, but guide them or help them see the problem the way that you see it. You have to try to see it from their perspective and understand it from them, from what they're saying they're going through.
Yes. And maybe an example would help. Because I remember very early on when I first started doing therapy, trying to work through my own family of origin stuff, and I'm like, I've said this before, I'm a 42-plus-year-old woman, but it's like, what's my mom gonna say?
Yeah.
Because as Latinos, like we're very, like our families are very much a part of our decision making.
Right.
And I loved my therapist. I loved my therapist at the time. She was great, but I don't know if she fully understood that aspect. That's like, well, you don't have to, like you kind of like, you don't owe your parents,
right?
That, and it's like, I don't know if you get it,
right? Maybe you don't. You don't know my parents sacrificed for me to get to the place that I'm at right now.
And not just that, but the hold that they have on you. The hold they have on you. And so I didn't feel like she fully understood that part, because it was kind of like, well, no, like you're an adult and you don't owe that. Which, yes,
it's true.
It's true.
But you have to try to see where that person's coming from and why they're struggling with that, and understanding their truth of what's happening in their life.
And why it's so difficult for me why it was so difficult to set boundaries with my family, even though I was an adult woman. At that time, I was like in my 30s. It's like, well, you're grown.
Right. And it's easy to say, like, just set a boundary. And it's like, well, what is the struggle behind that?
Why? So there's like years and years and years of lineage of a message that, like, no, you don't break off from your family.
Right.
Like, so,
yeah.
That would be an example.
So why is it so important? Like, this is something, obviously, that we're passionate about, that we want to make sure that anybody that's going to therapy doesn't experience anything that will cause more trauma to them.
Right.
But why? Well, I think I just said because it could cause trauma.
It could cause trauma. Well, and then as a clinician, what you may see the client as maybe not wanting to change, right? Like, oh, they're not really interested in change. And so maybe it's not that. It's just, again, sometimes it's not a matter of just what's happening right now in their life. If it's culture, again, these are like messages of years and years and years, especially like when you're one of the first ones to maybe break away from those cultural messages.
Right. And being able to empathize and attempt to understand where they're coming from, because that's the hope. One of the main reasons to come to therapy, right, is to feel understood, to have someone that you can kind of talk to about these things in a way where they're not bringing their own opinion in, and they're not necessarily telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. And so if I want that understanding, and so it's important that the person I talk to has that, because if the focus is about me, then we have to accept all of me.
Right.
You can't just say, like, well, that part is not that important.
Right.
Which is what some people experience.
Right. Yeah. And because so much of therapy is meeting the client where they're at. And so in order to be able to meet them where they're at, you have to understand what got them here.
Right.
This is where I'm at because of all of these factors, and our culture, our race, our ethnicity, all of that. It's you can't separate it. You can't say, well, I don't see color.
Right.
Please don't say that.
Please don't say that. Cultural competency 101.
We like our color. We want you to
see the color. Understand the color. Understand that the color is there and that it affects it. It affects us or your clients or whatever. Not seeing color has never helped anyone.
Right. It doesn't help. I don't see color. Like, well, then you don't see me fully. For who I am. Right. Is it the only thing that defines me? Of course not.
Right.
But I need you to see it, and it's just a matter of just don't hold it against me.
Right.
Right? Like, you can see my color. Don't then pathologize me as a result of my color.
And understand that a lot of times depending on where you work or the life that you live, sometimes we're not allowed to see color, quote unquote. We can't express ourselves in a certain way because of whatever life we have. So if I come to therapy, then that's the one thing not the one thing, but if I want you to see all of me, I want you to see all of me.
Yeah.
And so accepting everything, including cultural issues or biases or whatever the case, like just understanding what's happening all around and not just everything except that.
Right. Because, and we talk about it all the time, in order for the way that we do therapy is we want our clients to get what they need out of therapy. Like I say that to clients all the time, like, this is your session.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want you to feel like, hey, I'm getting what I need out of my sessions.
Right.
In order for me to be able to do that, I have to bring all of me.
Right.
I have to be able to show you all of me. That it may take a while for me to get there, but culture should not be one of the first things that blocks me, because maybe I'm coming in with some stuff that I've never been able to share before. But if I can't even get past you seeing me, you know, as being a Latina who's first generation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then how can I then go into the deeper stuff?
Right,
you?
right. I think that's a good point of, we just have to get past, it's not like that needs to be the focus. Nobody's expecting that to be the focus, but just you have to understand that it is there.
And don't exclude it.
And
it doesn't have to be
exactly.
the focus, but don't exclude it.
Right, right. So how do you know if a therapist is culturally competent? Like if you, and well, let me start here. For someone who's going to therapy, let's say I've never been to therapy, or maybe I have, but I've never went to a non-minority therapist, right? Or it doesn't even matter. I'm going to therapy, and I'm in session, and nothing is causing issues or nothing is triggering me. When does it become important? Like, how important is it that I make sure that my therapist is culturally competent? And then how do I make that decision on whether or not they are? Or how do I figure out, I guess?
You know, I think the first part is for clients to even understand that you deserve to have someone who's culturally competent, because we hear that a lot, you know, just even in our social media feeds of, well, I don't want to go to somebody that doesn't look like me because they're not going to get me. They're not going to understand me. Or I would go if I knew that there was going to be a therapist that looked like me. So, one, not everybody understands that you should be able to have a therapist who's culturally competent. How do I know that they're culturally competent? I think it's quicker to understand when they're not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think a good sign would be if they can talk about culture in a way where, like, if they can just even talk about it. Like, if the topic of race or the topic of culture somehow comes in. And that may not look like, oh, well, let's talk about you being a Latina. Like, it's not going to come up like that, but maybe it comes up with, when I'm telling you, I'm here because I'm a 30-plus-year-old woman and I'm still stressed about what my mom's going to say. Oh, well, how is that like for you? You know, you're Mexican, so how does that play out? That would be an example of, okay, they're not afraid to, at minimum, ask me.
Right.
Or be curious.
Right.
Or let me make sure I understand that fully. So what was it like for you in your family growing up, or even now, to break away from your parents as an adult? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and the word that keeps coming up is curiosity. And I think that works even if you do have a minority therapist, because you shouldn't assume that someone has had the same experiences as you. You know, so yes, maybe you understand something because you are a minority as well, so you've had certain experiences, but it's also important to have those conversations of, okay, so I know typically this is something that might happen. Is that what happened in your household? I understand that in minority cultures or in black culture, like, whoopings are okay, but then some people struggle with that. Like, let's talk about, you know, like, some of those conversations is more about you getting to know the client's perspective. And so if your therapist is curious, if your therapist is asking questions, if your therapist is not afraid to bring it up, then that's a good sign. It's not about being up on hip hop culture. It's not about seeing Black Panther. Like, that's all great and good, and understand that Black Panther was a huge thing for Black, but it's not about that. Like, it's not about, can you recite whatever. Like, it's more about, are you curious to know more about me and my culture and understand how it impacts me in everyday life?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, you know, as marriage and family therapists, we're trained in a way where we'll ask questions about your family. Like, we know we're going to take that into consideration, and we will also, like, who else was in your life, and, you know, be it extended family members or teachers or what have you. We're looking at that. So we're just saying, also including our culture as part of that curiosity and how this plays into the client. And I think, to be fair, as therapists, we're human.
Right. Definitely.
Like, we're human. And just to give you some insight about when we're trained, it's not like we're trained in a way where we're not engineers, we're not accountants, to where there's like, if this, then that.
Right.
Right. Like that's
one
how
plus one does not always equal two.
Right. Like not in therapy.
Yeah.
And I always remember that would drive some of my the cohort, that I was in, my colleagues, it would drive them nuts, because a lot of these questions, well, what happens when a client and the answer I remember they would always say is like, it depends. Right. Like it depends. So therapists, we're human. We're human, and we're gonna do our best, but there may be a point where maybe you drop the ball. Like, you think you're doing the right thing, and you think you're saying the right thing, you think you're asking the right question, and then you're like, oh shit,
I missed it.
Ooh,
yeah.
Did I just say that?
Yeah.
That may happen, but it's how your therapist then tries to address their mix-up, or like, oh, I didn't mean it like that.
Right.
It's a process. Therapy is a process.
Right. And I always say, like, therapy sometimes is the first healthy relationship you have. It's supposed to be, let me say that. Not the first one, but it might be one of the healthy relationships you have. And so sometimes that means the therapist coming back and saying, hey, I made a mistake. I did this wrong. Like, we're not one up or above. Well, depending on your theory, but we're not.
We don't subscribe to that theory.
We're not one up. We're equal. We're the same. The same. So if I mess up and I forget we have an appointment, I'm going to hold myself to the same standards that I hold you to when you miss an appointment. Right. Because I needed to be understood that we're both responsible for this relationship. Right. If I say something that could have been misconstrued, if I say something that may have caused you to feel some type of way and I noticed it, I'm going to bring it up so we can resolve it and move forward, as you do in a healthy relationship. Right. And so I think one thing, which is why it's never been about not having white therapists work with minority clients. Right. It's about having a healthy relationship with white therapists. If you have a therapist that happens to be white, and that person also understanding that they can do damage just like anybody else can, and how you address that. So if I'm struggling with something I saw on the news and I bring it up and then you kind of dismiss it, are you going to, after you realize like, whoa, that wasn't okay, I probably should have given them more time on that, are you going to come back and address it and let me know that you made a mistake? That's really what it's about, like that accountability.
Yes.
Because we don't get that a lot in media.
Well, I love what you said, that it's a really, and I always tell people, I like to think of this as a lab. Right? Like, so the relationship lab, where we are going to practice having this healthy relationship. And what happens with that is that it's not going to be perfect. Right. Your relationship's not going to be perfect always, or the therapist is not going to be perfect. Right. So just remembering that, but how then you can begin to practice, for example, if you struggle speaking your truth. This is where you get to do that. And the cool thing about it is you can't really mess it up, right? Like, so if you're going to practice that anywhere, have it be with your therapist. Right. If you have some sort of misunderstanding, this is where we practice working that out so that you can do this outside of the therapy. Every time I watch these, I realize how much I talk with my hands. So I'm trying to be more comfortable.
That is fine. They understand. So I want to talk quickly about why we chose to do this town hall that's coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
So what was the reason for having a discussion with other mental professionals about the direction of mental health in minority communities?
Like, how can we not have this discussion, especially right now? Right. How can we not have this discussion? What we do over here at Melanin in Mental Health, what started off as, hey, like, let's let everybody know that therapy is dope and let's spread mental health awareness. Okay, more of you all are hearing that. Now, we're hearing what you all have to say about, but. Right. Yeah. Yeah, what about this? Right. So how could we not have that discussion? And then everything that you're seeing, just everything that's happening in our world right now, how can we not, as people who are in this field dealing with the aftermath of some of these traumatic events.
Right.
How can we not have this discussion?
Yeah. And I think your point about, like, our goal is to reduce the stigma. Our goal is to start these conversations. And so then now that we have more, and it's so much great work being done in mental health when it comes to minorities, and so many more people are seeking that help. So then it's kind of like, okay, what now? You know, because at this point, are there enough minority mental health professionals? Probably not.
No.
At this point, what happens if I go to a therapist and they aren't culturally competent, or I experience some type of trauma? How do I deal with that? You know, how do I find a therapist, or how do, you know, you determine who you're going to refer to if there's no one that can take their insurance, that works with whatever issues they're having, that's a minority.
Right.
How do you determine which non-minority clinicians are you going to refer to? You know, those are the conversations that we're trying to have, because we want to make sure that we always have the resources available and that we're best serving the community.
Right.
Because that's really what it's all about, is best serving the communities that need the help.
And really giving our communities access first and foremost to the information. Right. And I think, our filter is skewed in that we're in this field. So we see all these amazing things being done, but that's because we live and breathe this stuff. Right. You know, because I'm always amazed when someone will tag us, like, on somebody else's thread, like, well, yeah, there are no black therapists, or, oh, there are no brown therapists. I'm like, yes, there is. Right.
All these people, yes.
But that's just a reminder that not everyone has access to this information, that these things are being done. Right. That we have people in our field, you know, like Dr. Joy, like Rashawn, like Dr. Turner, Dr. Nikki, Manuel, Dr. Jess, that are really these forces in the field trying to change how our communities see mental health and how the field sees our communities, and doing more things within our own communities to give our communities access to a different type of treatment. Right.
And that's the goal. That's the goal, is to make sure that they understand what's available, have the information, and then also to encourage, maybe there are a lot of therapists or mental health professionals that aren't even in private practice. So, you know, how they make sure that they're able to serve those communities and help as well. And what are those resources that are out there? So it's going to be good. I think it's going to be
it's going to be so good. Yeah. People are like, you need to take this on the road. I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yes, we're going to, we always have a million ideas happening, because we want to make sure we do as much as we can in the time that we have here. So I think that's it for this. It's going to go so much deeper on Sunday. So make sure that you RSVP. I'm going to add the link once we're done into the comments on here, as well as something else that just crossed my mind. Oh, I'm also going to add the link. If you're interested in submitting some work for Melanin Mental Health for the website, we are taking submissions for articles, blogs. It can be as a mental health professional. It could be from someone who's going through mental health issues, your experiences in therapy, anything like that. Feel free to submit, and we will review it and see if it's a good fit for our website. We want to make sure that we're telling your stories on the website, as well as giving resources and information from professionals. So I'll put that link in the comments as well. And if you're listening on the actual podcast, I'll put all of this information in the show notes.
Yes. And remember,
the
first thing that you can do, the first thing you can do to help change therapy
that one
is vote, share, vote from every device.
Yes.
Help our communities get this 10K so that we can really, really begin to change the face of therapy on a different level.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for always supporting us, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.